Sound is cool. Music is cooler. But playing music is the coolest. However, learning to play music is not cool. It's hard. But what if I told you there is a technique that is passed down by the gods that can make this learning phase easier? That's right, I'm talking about pitch perfect. Wait a minute, wrong thing. What I meant to say was perfect pitch. Wait a minute. What is a perfect pitch? Well, Google says that perfect pitch is the ability to recognize the pitch of a note or produce any given note, a sense of absolute pitch. An example of perfect pitch is where you can just hear a random note be played on piano, and by only using your hearing you can be like, damn, that's a H-sharp note. But how is this useful? Well, if you have perfect pitch, you can kind of listen to certain parts of a song, and you can understand what notes are being played to some level, which is useful, because you can write it down and have an easier time learning something by ear. And some people with perfect pitch are able to just hear something once, and then be able to know the exact notes that were played, and they can learn something in a matter of seconds. So you could be getting a bus, and just see a perfectly normal guy in front of you who's looking forward, but in reality, he's actually transcribing the entire discography of Van Halen, and he's turning it into sheet music using only his memory of what the songs sound like. That sounds like a superpower, right? But only 1 in 10,000 people have it, and that's like rarer than the slime stuff from Terraria. But I'ma make it so that every 1 in 1 person that follows my steps has perfect pitch, because I managed to get the skill in a week. I first tried getting perfect pitch a couple of years ago, when I saw one of them videos where Charlie Puth would gently poke a glass and be able to tell you the note it made. And I thought, whoa, that's cool. I wonder if I can do that.
I got no clue.
I gave up immediately. So time flew by, and then one day I was feeling emo or something, I don't know, but I'd been listening to Welcome to the Black Parade quite a bit, and the opening of the song starts with a very distinctive G that lasts 2 beats long. And this sound was so distinctive for my brain that when I was listening to another song that just had an alone G note in it, I was like, hey, that's a G. And ever since that moment I think of G as the Gerard Way note. This was the first time I tapped into my superpower and was able to recognise a note. So I thought, I wonder if I can do that with other notes. At first I was just trying to remember the actual sound of the note without using a reference song, but I was getting nowhere with this and I was ready to give up. But then, an angel descended down from the heavens to guide me on my quest for perfect pitch, and that angel's name was Kanye West. Yep, that's right, the 21 Jump Street enthusiast himself helped me get perfect pitch. I was just listening to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and then I heard, and I thought, I think that's an E. And then I played the note on guitar and I was right, I felt like a wizard. Runaway helped me discover the secret to perfect pitch. You just need a song that you've heard hundreds of times with a distinct note at the start. Thanks Kanye, very cool. After learning how to recognise an E note, I found the most important tool for my process, which was an online perfect pitch test. And it wasn't one of them YouTube videos where it'll hit you with the most god-awful noise you've ever heard in your life to make sure you don't have a reference note. Nah, this was tonesavvy.com. This website's great for ear training, and there's all kinds of theory stuff you can do on it as well. I only used the perfect pitch test on the website, and I just set it to custom mode and put in only the notes G, E and C to help build my ability to recognise the G and E note, and I just put the C note in there to try and learn a new note. I couldn't really think of any other songs that I could associate with other notes up to this point, so I just put a C in there so I could hopefully just be able to hear the note enough times that I would be able to recall what a C sounded like from just hearing the actual pitch of the note, rather than thinking of a song that I've heard thousands of times before. But there was no need for this, because after I became cracked at my G and E note, and after spending 20 minutes straight hearing the note C, I got an awakening that came straight out of the land of Oz. Yep, first Gerard Way helped me, then Kanye West, and now Judy Garland was helping me. The song Somewhere Over the Rainbow starts with a C note that lasts 2 beats long, and then the next note after this is a C but an octave higher. So this was a really good reference for me, and I learned how to recognise a C from this. After this, I just kept repeating my process and adding 1 note at a time until I thought of a song that I could associate with every note. And some notes took ages to think of a song for, but others I was able to find a song for instantly. I'm going to run through songs I used to identify the other 9 notes, and if you want to try and get perfect pitch, you can use some of these, but you might not have heard these songs as much as me. So the best thing to do is just experiment and try to find something that you know well, which you can use to recognise each note with. Also, if you're going to try and learn perfect pitch, it's probably going to get pretty annoying just hearing the same notes over and over again. But to be honest, it's actually surprisingly easy to learn. Now, the songs I use. When I hear the note A, I think, it's a god-awful small affair Life on Mars by David Bowie works really well for me, and who don't like Mars? Also, sometimes I'll use the Justin Hawkins Rides Again intro to identify an A. For A sharp / B flat, I have legendary guitarist The Do to thank for being able to recognise this note, because the Ascend starts with a really powerful A sharp. Whenever I hear an alone B note, I get sad and scared now because I recognise the note by thinking of the Song of Healing from Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. You know that one that goes bum 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 bum. C sharp was one of the hardest notes for me to find a song to recognise it by, but after a long time of experimenting, I found that spooky Michael Myers theme from Dead by Daylight, which was also featured in a few little known films as well. This song's iconic, and the C sharp that plays at the start's got a really heavy sound to it, so my brain can recognise C sharp notes by just thinking about a supernatural serial killer. Cool! And in contrast to Michael Myers, when I hear the note D, I think of a certain family-friendly yellow guy who lives in a pineapple under the sea. The grass skirt chase, otherwise known as the SpongeBob running music, starts with a squeaky sounding D note, and I got no idea why of all the songs that my brain could think of, it thought of this as a way to identify D notes. But hey, I ain't complaining, it's a classic tune. D sharp or E flat's weird for me, because I recognise it using the starting piano note on Humble by Kendrick Lamar. But the strange thing is, Humble doesn't start with a D sharp. I got an idea as to how this happened, and I think it's because my brain tricked myself into thinking that the piano on Humble is moved down by a semitone, so in reality the note at the start of Humble isn't a D sharp, it's an E. But I learnt the song by ear before I learnt perfect pitch, and I think I was just stupid and I just learnt the song with notes lower than it actually has, and I just kind of went with it even though it was wrong. So you really can just use whatever songs you want to identify notes, as long as it works for you. However, I'd recommend avoiding using Humble to identify D sharp, and you could just use it to identify E instead if you really wanted to. But a cool alternative that actually is a D sharp note is the start of King Dedede's theme from Kirby. F is also kinda odd for me, because I think of two songs when I hear this, and it's just kinda random whichever song my brain decides to pick to identify an F, and I either think of Boulevard and Broken Dreams by Green Day, or a certain song by Kanye West and Jay-Z that I'm not going to be reading the title of. F sharp was by far the easiest note for me, and within seconds of me trying to find a song to identify it by, I immediately thought that Italian man has a questionable sense in fashion, but has a banger theme song. The starting note for the piano part in Jonah's theme is so ingrained into my memory that whenever I hear an alone F sharp note, I just expect the rest of the theme to play. I think the reason this note was so easy for me, because the song was just all over the internet at one point, and the song just slaps in general. And the last note is G sharp, which I mainly identify using Vermilion Part 1 by Slipknot, because the first note is just so damn strong and eerie. And sometimes my brain mixes things up. I'll identify a G sharp note using a riff from a Japanese song called Kizuwado by a guy called Sentimillimento, which is the hardest thing I've ever had to pronounce, and if I ever got that on a spelling bee, I'd just walk right out the door. So once you find at least one song you can identify each note with, just keep on grinding on tonesavvy.com, because it took a while for me to get the notes consistently, and even now I still mess up. A fun thing I did to improve was see how quickly I could get to 50 notes identified correctly, because it develops my ear, and it's fun. And I imagine that I've probably got the world record for most notes identified by ear within a minute by now. Perfect pitch is a cool skill, and it's handy for figuring out simple things to play, but I can't lie, learning perfect pitch did not turn me into some kind of god. In fact, when I learn songs by ear, I don't even really use perfect pitch that much, because my brain has a hard time identifying multiple notes in a row. But if I practiced a lot more, I probably could get perfect pitch to a level where I could use it to learn songs really fast. But right now it's just a pretty cool trick that occasionally comes in handy. And I get to say I'm 1 in 10,000, which means I'm cool and quirky. So, quick step-by-step recap on how to get perfect pitch. Step 1. Pick 2 notes and then find one song for each note where the note you're trying to identify sounds very distinctive and clear at the start of the song. I recommend starting with a G and using the intro to Welcome to the Black Parade, because you'll probably know the song, and then just choose another note where you can recognise it with a song that you've heard hundreds of times before, or just use the same songs I use. Step 2. Put these 2 pitches and another random note into the Tone Savvy Perfect Pitch test. Step 3. Keep identifying the notes for a while until you become confident at recognising the current notes, and until you're able to think of a song to identify the new note you put in at random. Step 4. Learn a song to identify every note and keep using the test until you're Charlie Puth. Step 5. Subscribe to Bread Egg. There's people that say perfect pitch can be a really annoying curse that can ruin your life, but this ain't happened to me at all, and I just gained a cool skill. It probably could get annoying if you managed to train your ear to a point where you couldn't even listen to music without just identifying notes all the time, but I highly doubt you'll get to that point. Special thanks to these people for helping me get perfect pitch, and thank you for watching.